You're listening to Podcast with Curtis Mack.
Hey everybody, it's Curtis Mack. Thanks for joining me for another edition of Podcast with Curtis Mack. I'm in the WRNJ studio. Big shout out to Chuck, the producer. Shout out to Norman for letting us use the studio time. And shout out to our special guest today. This guest has been in the broadcast game for a long time, and he has awards, championship rings. He's got everything you could imagine that comes along with being a sports broadcaster. Without further ado, let's say hello to John Hennessy.
Hey, Curtis, how you doing today?
Good. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to see you too. We passed by each other in Hackettstown before. So,
yeah, sure.
And now here we are in the RNJ studio.
Yep, indeed. Looking forward to chatting with you.
Yeah, so just for the people out there, can you tell everybody your name and what you do or what you used to do?
Sure. My name is John Hennessy. I'm a resident of Long Valley, and I used to broadcast professional hockey. First for the Albany River Rats, which were the New Jersey Devils American Hockey League farm team, and then for the New Jersey Devils themselves.
Wow. And how long did you do that for?
Since 1993, I started in Albany.
Wow, that's when I was born,
Yeah.
John.
Now you make me feel old, Curtis.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So, so why was that important to you? Why was, broadcasting important to you?
Well, it was something I think I always wanted to do as a kid. My dad had Ranger season tickets, way back in the 70s that he split with a couple of his buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to go to Ranger games every Sunday night. The Rangers used to play home every Wednesday and every Sunday night. The schedule was pretty set up like that. And I fell in love with hockey at a very young age. And at a very young age, I decided that I wanted to broadcast hockey. And that's where the love of the sport began, just as a youngster.
Now, was there anybody, behind the mic that influenced you when you were at the games?
Marve Albert used to do some of the games, and, I always used to love listening to Marve Albert. And there's a fellow that used to do the Jet games and Giant games, Martty Glickman, when I was a real little kid. And I actually got to know him a little bit. He was a great man and a great broadcaster. Bob Wolf was a guy that used to do some of the Ranger games too. So those were some of the guys that I looked up to when I was a youngster.
So when you were broadcasting, was it just radio, or I don't want to say just radio, but was it radio and TV, or sometimes both, or simulcasting on different channels? How did it work?
It was just radio.
Okay.
And it was pre-internet really.
Yeah.
So it was just radio. I did have a television show, and I was in Albany for a few years. Called Rat Chat for the River Rats.
Okay.
And it was a blast. It was kind of a pregame show. When Fox had the rights to the NHL, we had a pregame show for that. And we would concentrate on what was going on with the Albany River Rats for half the show and then preview the NHL game as well. So that was a blast.
So did you grow up in like New Jersey or on the East Coast?
Yeah, I grew up in Ridgewood in Bergen County.
Wow.
Yeah, and I went to St. Joe's Montvale High School.
Excellent. And then after that, you went right into broadcasting, or did you study after high school?
I went to Providence College, and that's where I got into broadcasting at a college radio station. And that's where I started broadcasting hockey. I won an audition as a freshman to broadcast the hockey games, and the rest is history.
Wow, that's ironic. I went to Centenary University myself.
Okay, great.
And when I went there, I asked when I was just becoming a freshman, I asked, "Oh, can I get on the radio?" And the guy told me, the anchor at the time, or the guy behind the mic was like, "Oh, you have too much of a New Jersey accent to be on the radio." I was like, "But we're in New Jersey," And then a couple years later, I wound up meeting Norman, and then I'm on the radio for 5 years, you know what I mean?
Right,
And then
right.
I left in 2019, but I'm doing the medical thing now. But that's the kind of a background we both share together, is being behind the mic on the radio.
Sure.
You're more of a broadcaster, and I was on the advertising and selling. But I'm sure we've run across similar situations. I know a lot of travel came along with the job, right?
Oh yeah, a lot of travel. I mean, if you have a hockey team, I've been there, including college and then in the American League, riding the buses. There was no flights.
Sure.
Well, maybe occasionally out to like Newfoundland, you had to take a plane. Believe it or not, there's a professional hockey team in St. John's, Newfoundland.
Wow.
Still is the Toronto Maple Leafs team.
What was your favorite spot to travel to?
Oh, that's a good question. I really like going to Newfoundland.
Really?
Yeah, the people were really cool. They had a funny accent. It was kind of a half Canadian accent and half an Irish accent, or maybe a third. Make it a third Canadian, a third Irish, and a third pirate. They kind of talk like this. How you doing there, Curtis?
Oh, that's classic. Oh, that's funny. Oh my gosh. So, I know in the beginning of the program you showed me some rings, some awards that you received. I was going to ask you, have you received any recognition? Awards, plaques, and obviously you have some rings right there. If you don't mind, I'll hold it up to the camera. On
Yeah,
this side.
sure.
Yeah,
No,
sure.
please. That's why I brought them.
So, which one do we got right here, John?
That is the 2003 New Jersey Devils Stanley Cup championship ring.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, describe the night or the night of the game. How did you get this one? How did you bring it home?
How did I bring it home? Very carefully. Yeah, in fact, I got it out of a safety deposit box this morning to show you.
Sure.
Because I try to keep it safe.
Of course.
But yeah, it was a memorable night. The Devils beat Vancouver. I was thinking of the Rangers in '95. The Devils beat the Anaheim at that time Mighty Ducks.
Sure.
In Game 7. And it was a great night. It was a close game. It ended up being 3-0 final. Michael Rupp scored the game-winning goal, I remember. But to get to go down into the winning locker room is something I always remember. And having a sip of champagne out of the Stanley Cup is something.
Did they do the Gatorade splash on the coach?
Well, that was Pat Burns, God rest his soul, at the time. I don't think he would dump Gatorade on Pat. He was a pretty tough customer. I don't think they did, to tell you the truth.
That's a sports thing they do.
Yeah,
nowadays,
of course.
Right?
Now,
you caught the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it was another great game.
Yeah. So we got another ring right here, John. Right? So,
yep. That is a 19. I feel like I'm on the shopping channel here.
Yeah, a little bit. It's a combination of like a news program, podcast, little radio, little all that. So yeah.
That was a 1995 Albany Riverette Calder Cup championship ring. Calder Cup is a trophy awarded in the American Hockey League, not to be confused with the Calder Trophy, which is the Rookie of the Year in the National Hockey League.
Sure.
But yeah, I hadn't really looked at this baby in a while until I got it this morning, and just how special that memory was. The Riverettes won the Calder Cup up in Fredericton, New Brunswick, and it was a warm June night, and actually I think it might have been the end of May, and that was really fun.
That's awesome.
That was a great ride with those guys.
So did you get to work with any other big names? Obviously, John Hennessy is a huge name in radio, and now we're working with Curtis Mack. So
Another huge name.
Another huge name. Norman got so upset one time. I had a radio shirt made up. It said #1 radio personality, and he goes, "You really think that?" I said, "No, the guy just printed it." So I just went along with it. But I was at a carnival one time with the radio station. They took a picture, and I was in the newspaper. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, maybe I shouldn't have worn that shirt."
Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah, so have you worked with any other big names?
When I was doing the Devil games on the radio, on the TV side was Mike Emerick, who's Hall of Fame broadcaster, and Chico Resch did the color. They were great guys. Those are two of the biggest names that I worked with.
Sure.
Just great guys. They were so kind to me when I first came up, because I was a little nervous, as you might imagine, the first few games, but they made me feel very comfortable. And those are great guys, Chico Resch and Doc Emerick.
Now, when you were working with them or anybody else, do you have any memorable moments that happened behind the mic or in the studio that you
None that I can share with you here.
I would imagine so. That's usually how it goes. What happens in the studio stays in the studio, right? Offset.
Or after the game or on the airplane or whatever. Yeah, we used to travel together.
Yeah.
The Devils didn't allow the media on the plane, so we had to travel commercial. So we spent a lot of time together. And I remember one morning we were at an airport, I don't recall where, and it was about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sitting with Doc Emerick, and we're eating, Danishes that were wrapped in cellophane, those prefab things. And he just said to me, people have no idea how glamorous this job is.
Yes.
And we're drinking really bad coffee and eating these crappy Danish at 5 o'clock in St. Louis or somewhere. For
just because the outcome later in the day is going to yield a larger result.
Hopefully,
reach, whatever it may be.
Exactly. But there's a lot of travel involved. You look at a schedule and you see there's a day off. It's usually not a day off. It's a day of travel. So it's a grind. When training camp starts Labor Day weekend, or usually right around Labor Day weekend with physicals, through the end of the year, you're on the move, and it's hard to catch your breath.
So any other awards or accomplishments that you had taken under your belt while you were doing the broadcasting?
I was an all-star broadcaster in Albany one year. I got to do a game, and that was an all-star game. That was a lot of fun.
That's a treat.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was in Syracuse on the Onondaga County War Memorial.
Nice. How you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah. So, how can people see your work now? Do you have anything out there, or can they tune in somehow?
I'm kind of a adult when it comes to technical stuff. I don't
Okay.
have a podcast or anything like that. I guess you could go to YouTube.
Yeah, probably, right?
And click my name and see some stuff. I know the TV show from Albany some of that stuff is up there.
I'm sure some of the games are
And
on
some
there.
of the, especially that Game 7 against Anaheim, winning the Stanley Cup is probably up there.
So now, were you doing like statistics or color?
I did play-by-play.
Okay, so explain to me, because I don't know as much as the broadcasting for the sports. Like, so there's two announcers usually, right?
Correct. Myself and my color guy was Randy Velischek, a former player, and who still lives in Jersey.
Okay, shout out to Randy.
Yeah, good guy. I'm the guy that says, "Here's John has the puck. He gives it to Curtis. Curtis shoots and scores."
Of course.
And and the color guy, Randy Velischek, would say, "Oh, that was a great pass by Hennessy, and a good finish by Curtis." He is what they call the color commentator,
Yeah.
where he will explain what happened. While my function was, I told you what happened.
Yeah. So like theater of the mind, right? Radio.
Yeah,
they
yeah, exactly.
Explain it. So what were your goals going in, to radio, and then what are they now, or did you accomplish everything?
I think, thanks. I accomplished it. I wanted to be an NHL broadcaster.
That's it.
And I did it. And the chances of that, all kids growing up either want to be the player or the broadcaster, and at an early age, I realized I wasn't going to be the player. So I concentrated on broadcasting, and just through luck and some hard work and a lot of support, I was able to accomplish it.
All right. So for a young guy out there, a young gal, or whoever you may be, some advice for the younger generation going into broadcasting, because some say radio's dead, but I think it's alive. Social media brought it back to life, and there's still a need for it. So
especially where we're taping here today, and a great station. And that's where I basically started up in New England. After I went to school at Providence College, I worked in radio. Well, I went to William Paterson for graduate school.
Oh, okay, Willie P.
Willie P, yeah. For TV communications.
A lot of people go there. My brother went there.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great program, and I met a lot of great people there. But after that, I went to work at little radio stations in New England outside Boston. So that was the best way to do it at the time, to get started at a small station, hone your skills,
of course,
and then just work your way up. And then I ended up working at WBZ in Boston, which is a big radio station, the biggest in New England. And even though I had a good job there, I decided, and I was doing some college hockey on the side at the time, I decided I wanted to do the hockey on a full-time basis. And I was able to get the job in Albany for the Devils Farm team.
Now, were you always doing sports broadcasting, or did you ever do any news? Did you ever do any advertisements, some spots? Or?
I never. Well, yeah, in Albany I had to sell some spots. But when I worked in Boston, I produced the morning news.
Okay.
So I ran the board and pulled up the helicopter guy and all that kind of cool stuff, and got guests on the phone,
of course,
and all that kind of good stuff. But I'd say 99% of my experience would be in sports.
Now, did you guys ever take any live callers when you were doing broadcasting in the booth for the hocky games? How did that work?
No live callers for going to hockey games. I did have a talk show at WKOX Radio in Framingham.
Okay.
For a while. That was a lot of fun.
Okay.
Doing a talk show.
Yeah, having people call in and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. It could be fun. So, what are you looking to do now, or what are you doing now?
Basically, I'm retired. If the right opportunity came up, I would take it. There have been some jobs in the NHL that have been available in the last few years, but I feel like I'm too old to move again. Moving from Albany to Jersey was easy because my wife was working for a firm in New Jersey at the time.
Okay.
So that was an easy move. And being from New Jersey, it was it was nice to come home in essence.
Sure.
But I'd say right now I'm retired. But again, if the right local opportunity came up, I would probably take it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And
So I'm either semi-retired or semi-unemployed. I don't know which it is.
That's awesome. So some advice for people out there trying to get involved. Even you're retired now, and you said like you would still get involved with some local radio if the opportunity was right.
Sure.
And if you're just getting started, that's another way to do it.
That's absolutely a great way to do it now. And with podcasts, there's so much out there. But I would really recommend if you could get involved with a local radio station.
Okay, I'm gonna have to tell Norman to scoop you up so I keep you around here more. So, how can you be reached if you want to be reached? If somebody wants maybe some voiceovers done or anything like that.
Yeah. You can reach me on Facebook, I guess
Okay.
is the best way.
Perfect.
Yeah, my email and stuff, I guess, is up there.
Yeah, John Hennessy on Facebook, and you can reach me at Curtis Mack 93 on Instagram.
Okay.
If you search Curtis Mack on all social media platforms, that's where I'll show up. The podcast has been running since 2015. Back when I started in radio, and now, like I said, I'm in the medical world, but I keep the podcast going. It's kind of like a moonlight thing,
I see.
highlighting talent on the East Coast particularly, and for you to bless the microphone with me is it's truly a great opportunity. So I thank you for that.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate it. Did we miss anything?
Did we miss anything? I don't think so.
Cool. Any shout outs?
Shout outs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to Lou Lamorello for hiring me in New Jersey in the first place.
There you go.
And to my wife, Adrian, for all her support over the years.
All right. Hey, yo, Adrian.
Adrian.
Right?
She's a Boston girl.
Nice. And once again, shout out to RNJ. Shout out to
Absolutely.
Norm, Chuck, for running the board for us. Thank you for being in the booth with me today. And thanks for everyone listening. And I'll see you next time.